Homework. D. I shouldn't have to say that if I have. It's so nice to have new music, even if it's probably mostly mediocre. Oh my goodness, I can't believe every single one I got was Toho music. Every single one is Toho music. Like that's how insanely much Toho music exists. I was able to find this many new unique Toho albums to listen to. Man, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Gosh dang it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So 22 that I listen to on the computer and 5 that I listen to in the car at the moment. But I'm only listening to one at a time in the car, and then when I finish the one, then I put it on the computer again. So and I'm current in the car. I'm actually listening to. So it's funny. I have 5 CDs, but they're not evenly. They're not just one album to one CD because of the lengths of the album. So this album and this album are on one CD, and then these 3 albums, I have a dedicated album for each, or a dedicated CD for each of these 3 albums, and then I have one album that takes some from each of these three because each of these three is too big of an album by themselves to fit on one CD. So I made 4 albums out of 3 CDs, and that was funny. I'm going to kill myself. Don't play it. Still on the first track of this album. Ugh, I hate my life. I am going to be doing this right now. That's my only plan for right now. I don't necessarily know what I'm gonna do after this. Oh my god! And besides, this is probably gonna take a million years. And I did such a poor job in class on Thursday when the teacher cold called me and asked me questions about a topic in the textbook. He he asked me questions about a topic that the textbook barely even talked about. How was I supposed to answer those questions that he was asking me? The textbook barely explained those concepts, and he was asking me detailed questions about the concepts that were not covered in the textbook. When are you ever gonna post a smart book? It doesn't matter. Just read it out loud. Oh my god. I am making sure the computer's not getting full. A contract is a legally enforceable promise or set of promises. I thought I already read this. I already read down this far. I read down to this part. These are examples of contracts. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Do I need to read this thing? Jimmy John's use of non-compete agreements with low-wage workers. Fast food franchisor Jimmy John's became a target of public backlash when it became known that the company required sandwich makers and delivery drivers to sign broad non-compete agreements. The terms of these non-compete contracts were criticized as being overly broad and illegal and for unfairly targeting low-wage workers. One of the most problematic terms in the contract states employee covenants and agrees that during his or her employment with the employer and for a period of 2 years after, he or she will not have any direct or indirect interest in or perform services for any business which derives more than 10% of its revenue from selling Submarine, Hero Type Deli Style Pita and or wrapped or rolled sandwiches, and which is located within 3 miles of either the Jimmy John's location in question or any other such Jimmy John's sandwich shop. So the employees had to sign a contract stating, I will not work within 2 years of working here. I will not work for any other direct competitor of this store. That's fun. If these contracts were to be enforced, they would unduly restrict sandwich makers and delivery drivers from obtaining employment elsewhere due to the negative publicity. Jimmy John's publicly stepped away from attempting to enforce these unethical and overly restrictive agreements with its drivers and sandwich makers. Freedom of contract is an important principle in American contract law. However, it is not without its limits. Ethics and public policy play equally important roles in contract law. For example, every contract is premised on the notion of good faith dealing. Good faith, honesty, in fact, and the observance of reasonable commercial standards of fair dealing. Good faith is widely recognized under the common law. I need more rulers. I need more rulers. I need more. This one is the only one I have left. I need tons of these. I wish I could bring them to and have my own private office so that nobody could hear me making the noise with these. I wonder if people would hear me making the noise with this ruler in the library when I'm in my own room. I don't know if people would be able to hear it if I did it. Oh man, it was kind of a rough hour and a half of waiting time between classes yesterday. 2 days ago, because I was feeling very tired and well, I wasn't feeling nauseous until I think I may have started to feel nauseous during that hour and a half near the end of it, and I was just tired in general. Oh, wait, yes, and I actually didn't get very much homework done. What was I even reading during that time? What was I doing? I think, was I reading advanced accounting? Man, I got like nothing done during that time because all I can remember is that I read some of the advanced accounting PowerPoint, but I like barely read any of that PowerPoint. Goodness, what the heck was that? Oh, was. I mean, I hate myself. Good faith is widely recognized under the common law, and the UCC defines it as honesty in fact and the observance of reasonable commercial standards of fair dealing. If there is evidence of bad faith on either contracting party, this can lead to damages and remedies that are discussed in Chapter 11 breach and remedies. In the case, a federal appellate court decides whether a lender and borrower are required to negotiate in good faith after they signed an initial term sheet during the preliminary stages of negotiation. Fact summary. Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association of America sued Tribune, alleging that Tribune breached a commitment letter agreement for a 14-year, $76 million loan yielding blip. During negotiations, Tribune had sought a loan that would allow them to employ off-balance sheet accounting. TIA sent Tribune a letter that included a term sheet with the major contract terms. However, the letter made no reference to loan conditions involving off-balance sheet accounting. TIA's letter stated that the final agreement was contingent upon the preparation, execution, and delivery of documents in the form and substance satisfactory to TIA and a special counsel, and that the final loan documents would contain the usual and customary representations and warranties, closing conditions, other government and events of defaults, as we TIA and our special counsel may deem reasonably necessary. And you know what's fun? In our class, the professor asked the student to give a summary of one of the cases in our book, which means we'd have to like study it, not only read it, but like actually study it extensively to be able to remember that. Because how are we supposed to be able to recall? There's like 6 or 7 different cases that we'd have to read and remember all of them? Are you kidding me? You've got to be kidding me. The letter concluded by inviting Tribune to evidence acceptance of the conditions of this letter by having it executed below. The letter also stated that upon receipt by T, the accepted counterpart of this letter signed and returned the letter and term sheet, and that our acceptance and agreement is subject to approval by the company's board of directors and the preparation and execution of legal documentation satisfactory to the company. Tribune's acceptance letter likewise made no mention of any off-balance sheet accounting requirements. Before the final loan agreement was signed, however, Tribune's accountants expressed doubt that regulators would accept the off-balance sheet nature of the proposed loan. Tribune then refused to enter into the final loan agreement and broke off further negotiations, alleged that Tribune breached an obligation to negotiate the final loan agreement in good faith. Tribune's argument looks really stupid. I don't feel like doing a quiz. I hate that it won't let me click the new tab for the quiz. You know what? Screw it. I'm not doing the quizzes again. A contract is a legally enforceable promise or set of promises. Contracts are fundamental to business and well-functioning market economy because they protect the expectations of parties to exchange value. In commercial dealings, contract law promotes business objectives. Contract law promotes business objectives and is a flexible area of private law that encourages contracting parties to define their own terms and strike novel types of agreements. Contracts are vital to business because just about every aspect of business relies on contracts to protect expectations and facilitate planning. Every contract is premised on the notion of good faith dealing. Elements of a contract. A valid contract is a valid contract has four basic required elements. Mutual assent, consideration, legality of purpose, and capacity. These elements are why did you have to do mutual assent? Mutual assent. The parties to a contract must indicate through words or behavior that they willingly agree to enter into a contract. A valid offer and acceptance is usually how parties demonstrate mutual assent. Consideration. This element requires both sides to obtain something of value, legal benefit, and to give up something of value, legal detriment. Legality of purpose. A contract must satisfy a legal purpose to be enforceable. Contracts that are contrary to existing laws or public policy are likely to be rendered unenforceable. Capacity. Both parties to the contract must have the legal standing to enter into contracts. Individuals who are minors, mentally incapacitated, or intoxicated may lack the capacity to enter into contracts, and this may result in a voidable contract. The status of these four essential contract elements will determine whether a contract is valid, void, voidable, or unenforceable. Keep these definitions in mind as you continue your study of contract law. Valid. When a contract has the required elements, it is called a valid contract. Void. Really, you're just copying the sentence. Every single one is just copying the sentence. When an agreement lacks one of the required elements or has not been formed in conformance with the law from the outset, the contract is considered void, sometimes called void per se. A contract is voidable when the law gives one or more parties the right to cancel an otherwise valid contract under the circumstances unenforceable. Although the contract may have all required elements and be considered valid, it may be unenforceable because one party asserts a legal defense to performing the contract. I'm so bored. The publishing market in the United States is dominated by the six largest publishers of trade books known as the Big Six. Together, these companies published many of the bestsellers in fiction and nonfiction in 2010. Their titles account for more than 90% of the New York Times bestsellers in the United States. In 2007, Amazon launched the Kindle, a portable electronic device, which is basically just, which is has been completely um, 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 made obsolete by iPhone. I mean, smartphones. Oh my goodness! Except and like I mean iPads too, or tablets, which are just bigger screens. I mean, which have bigger screens, maybe a bit more processing capacity or something. Because like, isn't the only difference between a smartphone and a tablet? The tablet is like a bit more of an advanced computer or advanced processor than a smartphone because it's like bigger. Oh, it was funny. And it's obviously a bigger screen, which is nice. It was funny. All I own is all I own because I actually own so many laptops. If you take into account every laptop I technically still own, I own three of them. No, four of them are here at this house, and then like one, two, I think there's two old laptops at my mom's house. So I think I technically own six laptops, but only three of them, well, four of them are like usable. The fourth most usable one is almost practically unusable, but it's still usable. Even though the screen flickers a lot, it's still usable. Um, but I have three very usable laptops still, which is so funny because my friend Chris, gave me two laptops. That was incredibly nice of him. I can't believe he gave me two laptops. I mean, that how much money is that worth? Those two laptops that he gave me is probably worth like over $1,000, if not more, which is absolutely insane. But I guess he just didn't need them. He could have easily sold them to me for a discount, but he just gave it to me. Or he could have sold the laptops on like online or something. Anyways, that was fine. And I'm currently using one of the two laptops he gave me because he gave me two laptops which are both like really fast, I think. But the problem with one of them is that it has a low battery life. I think he said it was like you basically can't use it unless it's plugged in. And this one I'm currently using has a problem. The main reason he gave it to me is because he couldn't get the I think he said he couldn't get the graphics card to work for some reason. But even without the graphics card working, it's still such a fast computer compared to my old computer. It's so incredibly fast. Like it's insane. I never ever have issues with lag on this computer, which is so nice. So that's this computer, and I have another perfectly good computer that my friend gave me. Obviously, but it just doesn't have. It just has to be plugged in, so it's not. It's more. It's almost similar to like a. It has the problem that a PC would have, and that it's immobile. Well, you can move it, but you can't. You have to always have the cord. You have to always be able to plug it in, otherwise it doesn't work. I guess. Plus, it's a little bit bulky. But anyways, and then my third best laptop is the one I used for 3 years, from 2020 to 2023, and I only recently stopped using it, and it's a little bit slow after having used it for 3 years. Maybe I could like fix the lag on it somehow, but because it actually started off really fast, but then it slowed down over time. So, but it was still other than being kind of slow, it still works perfectly fine. That's funny. but I just have it sitting. I have my other two laptops that work fine sitting in the other bedroom, just on the desk. That was fun. And my fourth laptop that works, that just barely is usable, is the one in my closet that I'm forced to use to make my CDs, because that's the only way I can burn CDs. It's the only laptop I own that actually has a CD drive in it. And I could buy a CD, like an external CD drive to plug into this laptop, but that would cost money. Although, how much money would it really cost? I mean, once I get the internship, hopefully I'll have money to spend on some random weird stuff that I want to have, but I can't because I'm not can't really afford it. And those, I mean, it probably only costs like $20 to buy one of those things. I mean, I probably could afford it now, but still, I mean, I'm pretty much broke at this point, but I'm getting the internship really soon here because I'm going to go in for the pre-employment process on Wednesday, and then they said I could start a week after that. So about a week and a half before I start the internship. And it'll be the first time I've had an actual real job since 2021. That's funny. Oh my goodness. You may be wondering, how on earth did you manage to go 2 jobs without working? I mean, 2 years without working. I actually had a bit of money. I had a lot of money saved up by the time I quit, because I made a ton of money from the janitor job that I worked from 2019 to 2021. So I had like $5,000 saved when I lost that job. I had like $5,000 saved up, so it lasted me such a long time. But like the vast majority of that $5,000 got used up paying for one semester of tuition, which is so freaking funny. Like I think I probably spent like I mean, how much did that tuition cost? I think it may have cost like $3,000. Wait, so why did I pay $3,000 in tuition? No, I think it may have been 4,000. I don't remember. I'm not sure why one semester I actually had to pay $5,000, and one semester it wasn't 5,000, because the one semester I paid for by myself, I think I only paid like $3,000 for it. So I'm kind of confused here. But still, like 3,000 out of my $5,000 was just gone instantaneously because of tuition. So that's all of that. Not so hard work. That was funny. A portable electronic device that allows consumers to purchase, download, and read ebooks just 2 years later. Amazon was responsible for 90% of all ebook sales. Amazon followed a wholesale business model similar to the one used with print books, whereby publishers received a wholesale price for each ebook that Amazon sold. In exchange, Amazon could sell up publishers' ebooks on the Kindle and determine the retail price. Amazon departed significantly from the publisher's traditional business model in the sale of new releases and New York Times bestsellers. Rather than selling more expensive versions of these books upon release, Amazon set the Kindle prices for these titles uniformly at $10. A vice president for Amazon described this as a classic loss-leading strategy Designed to encourage consumers to adopt the Kindle device by discounting new releases and New York Times bestsellers, members of the Big Six believed Amazon's lower-priced ebooks would make it more difficult for them to sell higher-priced hardcover copies of new releases and would condition ebook readers to expect lower prices in general for all titles. I mean, $10, still $10 for a book. I mean, if I really want to read books, I'm not going to spend $10 on each book. Like they say that's cheap, but like I spend $0 on books now. If I actually wanted to start reading, I mean, obviously I would just read books from the library, but unfortunately I've been disincentivized from setting up the library account because it forces me to go there in person to do it. iPad. Apple decided it could compete with Amazon's Kindle when the ebook market under Apple's competing system. Publishers would have the freedom to set ebook prices in Apple's iBook store and would keep 70% of each sale. Remaining 30% goes to Apple as a commission. This is known in the industry as an agency model, whereby the publisher sets the retail price that consumers pay for an ebook. Apple communicated to publishers that ebook prices in the iBook store needed to be comparable to those on Amazon's Kindle, expressing the view that it could not tolerate a market where the product is sold significantly more cheaply elsewhere. Although Apple's agency model gave publishers control over pricing, agreed the risk that Big Six would sell ebooks in the iBook store at far higher prices than Kindle's $9.99 offering solved the problem. Apple devised three strategies that were reflected in its contracts with the Big Six publishers. First, Apple would maintain realistic prices by establishing contractually fixed price caps for different types of books above Amazon's $9.99 price. Second, Apple contractually required each publisher to switch all other ebook retailers, including Amazon, to the agency model. Third, to avoid price competition with Amazon. Apple required the publishers to include a most favored nation clause in Apple's contract. This clause required the publishers to offer any ebook in Apple's book source from Warner than what the same ebook was offered for elsewhere. I'm confused. Where's the part that somebody got sued? It didn't even say, dude. Apple violated the Sherman Antitrust Act when it colluded and signed contracts with Big Six publishers that resulted in higher ebook prices. What? What? At what point did it say that it resulted in higher prices? It literally says that Apple tried to solve the problem, but it didn't say whether they did solve the problem. Oh, that's weird. Oh man. A valid contract has four basic requirements: mutual assent, consideration, legality of purpose, and capacity. The status of the four essential contract elements will determine if a contract is valid, void, voidable, or unenforceable. You know, this textbook does not explain stuff very well. I mean, it doesn't explain stuff like very thoroughly. Like, it doesn't give like a lot of examples of like something that like yeah, it doesn't give an example of unenforceable versus a void contract. Like, it really doesn't explain it. It just kind of gives you the baseline information and then gives you a case, and it doesn't really explain much about the case. It makes you try to figure it out yourself. But then again, I got to give the textbook credit because it does have an answer page for all of the review questions at the end, so maybe that could be helpful. That was funny. So maybe a lot more of the content I'm missing from this chapter is in the questions and answers at the end, but we'll see. That was funny. I feel like listening to music. So. Types of contracts. Types of contracts. Contracts can be categorized by type of contractual commitment, source of law, level of explicitness, and the nature of the business relationship. These categories are not exclusive and may overlap. Commitment in a contract relates to the required element of consideration. Oh, what a sentence that you just said. Recall that consideration requires both contracting parties to obtain something of value, incur legal benefit, and to give up something of value, incur legal detriment. In a bilateral contract, that was funny. A bilateral contract is a contract where the legal detriment is incurred through mutual promises the parties make to each other. The legal detriment is incurred through the mutual promises the parties make to each other. For example, an employer promises to hire an employee in exchange for the employee's promise to satisfy the required job duties. Wait, what is the last cat option? I can't remember which one that is. So, a homeowner is promised to pay a contractor $10,000 to install a new roof on a specific date at a unilateral promise for action contract. If and when the contractor installs the new roof on the date. Gosh dang it. I barely understand what that means. Contracts can also be categorized according to the applicable source of law. I hardly understand what bilateral and unilateral means. Man. I think I kind of understand it. think I kind of do. It's just the way they explain it really sucks. Can be categorized according to an applicable source of law. For example, contracts for services or real estate are governed by state common law and are referred to as common law contracts. Some examples of common law contracts include employment contracts, insurance contracts, rental agreements, licensing agreements, loans, and investment contracts. Contracts dealing with the sale of goods are governed by the state. State UCC statutes are referred to as UCC sales contracts. The purchase of inventory, raw materials, machinery, or finished goods would all involve UCC sales contracts. Ooh, blah 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 blah. Contracts are also classified by their level of explicitness. Gosh dang everything. Contracts are also classified. And please just set my font size bigger by default. Come on. Contracts are also classified by the level of explicitness. Explicit contracts are those where the terms are explicitly defined by the parties either orally or in writing. Some contracts are non-enforceable unless they are in writing and satisfy a rule called a statute of frauds. The common law statute of frauds requires evidence of a written and signed contract for agreements that involve real estate, the payment of another's debt, or services that cannot be performed in less than 1 year. These are required a written and signed contract when the sale of goods is more than $500. Implied contracts, on the other hand, last explicit terms are solely implied by the party's behavior or through social custom. For example, an apartment lease is typically an explicit agreement evidenced by a comprehensive contract with various detailed terms such as the amount of rent, length of the lease, payment due dates. A purchase of a textbook is an implied contract. Ooh. Just buying stuff at the store is always an implied contract. Wow. Wait, isn't it? Would you consider buying stuff at the store to be a unilateral contract? Oh, come on! I still don't understand what this means. Oh, come on! I still don't understand what it is the difference between a bilateral and unilateral contract. The way they explain it is so terrible. Gotta be kidding me. Only one party makes a promise to perform an action? I still don't understand this. I still don't. Gosh. Dude, what if this soundtrack we can find listen to in the car? It doesn't sound that bad. Actually, all of these tracks are like made with like old sounding video game music or like old video game music sound um, font or whatever it's called. Huh. I'm not sure why I ultimately said I thought I just didn't like this soundtrack. Man, why am I so terrible at judging how well I'm gonna like a soundtrack? I like spent a long time trying to figure out which ones I wanted to listen to in the car. Blah 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 stuff. That was funny. blah 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 blah. I don't know if this is loud. Gosh dang it. Maybe this is why I didn't like the soundtrack. Oh, come on, I accidentally opened Word. Thank goodness my computer is fast. Like, this computer is like 10 jillion times faster than my old computer. If I had done that on my old computer, it would have taken like 2 full minutes for Word to open. Like, that's how bad it was on my old computer. Even though it was like I bought it brand new in 2020, it still slowed down like relatively quickly. I'm afraid that's going to happen to this computer. I wonder if I just had a ton of viruses on it or something. I think my friend Chris could probably help me with like clear, clear, like clear the whatever old junk is on my computer if it becomes slow. Because he had like these programs installed on these laptops he gave me that would do that for you. Oh, uh, Man, I'm kind of regretting not making this soundtrack when I listen to it in the car because on literally my second listen through of it, I like it way better than the first time I listened to it. Man, come on, man. Too late. I already made all the CDs. I'm not gonna make more. I literally made 5 CDs. I mean, that could last me months. Maybe all these second 17 ones sucked more than the first seven. I don't know. Maybe I just listened to the beginning of the songs because like, okay, I guess this one's not as good. That was funny. Wait, so they still had to pay them $5,000? How does the first story have anything to do with handshake deals?
The first part of this doesn't have anything to do with what we're reading about. Seriously? Gosh. I guess I can see why I didn't choose this. It must have just been like the first 7 tracks that were good or something. I don't know. Membership is not transferable. The second one, I guess, is better, but it's like a little bit too short because it's not like super precise. It's just like very short, like the shortest possible way you can say it, but it's still not the best. That's fine. Ugh. Just that list in and of itself just made me so disgusted because I'm just so bored. It just it just disgusted me with how bored it made me to read that list of sections of a contract. It's, this has got to be like the most boring subject I've ever taken in my life. Advanced business law. One thing is for sure, I do not want to become a lawyer, but at the same time, dude, accounting was probably a terrible, terrible career choice in terms of the fact that it has a lot to do with the law. Dang it. Dang it. Dang it. Oh no, now it's going to explain them in more in depth. No, I don't want this. This was the type of thing where the professor asked me a question that I couldn't answer because this was the entire extent of the information that it had on one of the topics he asked about. It was just this weird box that just gave like an example of it and a very basic definition of it, but it didn't have an in-depth explanation of each concept. It just gave you the definition and one example, and that's it. Preamble, recitals. Do I really need to read all this stuff? Do I really need to? Is this going to be something he asks about? All I need to know right now is that there's different sections of a contract. So whatever. This weirdly enough sounds very similar to the Ace Attorney soundtracks because it's made in kind of a similar old video game sound font type of style of music. That was funny. You know what's interesting? I think this might not be really considered a Toho album, because this album artist or composer did make Toho style albums, but I think this album right here is not technically a Toho style album. It's just an album made by the same guy who made a Toho style album. So a lot of these songs don't really sound like Toho music, and they sound more like Ace Attorney music. Actually, that's what it reminded me of. I don't care. This is the most boring thing on the planet. Being an attorney sounds just like the most boring job ever. Or maybe not boring. Probably like 50% boring and 50% just difficult and like unnecessarily challenging. That was funny. I killed myself. But then again, do I might prefer this might be less boring than the business textbooks I've had to read in the past. At least it's not the business. At least it's not just plain old business like strategic management. That may have been even worse. Like that one was like boring and full of itself, whereas this one is just boring. Like the business textbooks are all just full of themselves. Yeah.
We're gonna be leaving soon.
Well, good news. Oh, family's going out in a little bit, so have some time to myself. Was funny. But anyways, we almost finished this chapter. I mean, we probably could just finish this up here. Why am I reading about what a strategically qualified contracts attorney does? Like, why am I reading about that? How is that even gonna help me? Gosh, man. Business terminology. Blech. What's worse, legal talk or business talk? Both of them suck. It's so funny how much I hate this. But I really should remind myself of how much I hated the strategic management stuff and the business stuff. Like I feel like that's still worse than this. They both suck. Okay, we're almost done. Just have this page left, right? Is it just this page? Yep, this is the last one, and then we're done with the first chapter we have to read. And I mean, we're doing much better so far in terms of being ahead. Because like technically, I could just wait until the day before to read all the stuff, and technically, I could also just not read it and risk getting cold called and not being able to respond appropriately. But I'm not taking the risk with the cold calls because he's much more explicit with that now. Like last in the government class, he there never really was much of a risk of being cold called. Um, and like in the auditing class for like the first 3/4 of the semester, there wasn't really a risk of that either. But this semester, he has it as a part of your grade that you have to be able to respond to cold calls, and otherwise, it will literally hurt your. It's like it's like worth lots of points. It's actually worth a decent amount of your grade. So that's what I have to actually study, which is a very strategically. That was funny. Very strategic way to get students to participate in class. I think that's probably the best idea he's come up with so far, is cold calls because it like basically is heavily incentivizes people to read and study the book before coming to class. That's funny. And he did something similar to that in the auditing last semester. And fun fact, I did the readings before class before every class. I did read the chapter, but it was really difficult to participate in the discussions even after I did the reading because the participation in the discussions required you to have a deep knowledge of all of the auditing standards that we'd read throughout the whole semester beforehand. And we had read them so long before that it was really hard to like remember all that stuff. So I ended up with like an 80% overall on the participation grade, but I still ended up with an A in the class, so it was fine. That was fun. So I wonder if I'm getting better. That was funny because I feel like I've been having symptoms that are similar to gastroparesis, but I'm not. But I don't know if I actually have it. I just feel like it's been like 2 weeks, straight weeks, or maybe just 1 week. I don't remember how long this has lasted, but like it feels like 2 weeks of having symptoms very similar to gastroparesis. But it's been a little bit better in the past 2 days. Hopefully it goes away. That was funny. Well, I mean, if it really is gastroparesis, then I think it wouldn't go away. It would just stay forever because it's like uncurable or something. But maybe it's just nothing. Maybe it's just like I don't know what it would be. What would this be considered? What would the it be? What would you call it? What having the symptoms that I've had for the past 2 weeks? If it's not gastroparesis, it's just the symptoms isolated by themselves. Like maybe just poor the way I ate the past 2 weeks was not good. So like my body responded negatively to the way I ate for the last 2 weeks. Maybe that's the problem. That was fun. Ugh, thinking strategically. Dang, I don't want to read this. Dang it. Artist, agent, promoter, venue, ticketing, fan. So this is the company that just makes the tickets themselves, right? It's not like the actual ticket to the place, but like the paper that the ticket is printed on, right? Isn't that what it is? I don't know. Yeah, what's with those fees? What the actual heck, dude? The ticket price is $45, and then there's literally $14 of fees in addition to that. What the heck? Convenience charge? What even is a convenience charge? Like what? Tax order processing. Well, the whole point of the story is that they used a contract. So, pff. Wait, rebates? What do you mean rebates? Yeah, whatever. So many cases, dude. There's so many cases, and there's review questions, and um, and answers to the review questions. So nice. So that's gonna be very, very helpful for studying, probably. But in terms of just preparing for the class, I'm just gonna read the chapter. For the outline, though, I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting what I end up doing for the outline. That was funny. So I read the first chapter that I have to read. So we have to read another chapter that is 15 pages long. That was funny. Dang it. Did they leave you? That was funny. He's like, oh, we're about to leave. And then watches it take a whole hour to leave. I mean, who knows? It could take them forever. That was funny. That was funny. That was funny. Really? What? There's a whole chapter on mutual assent? Are you kidding me? There's a whole chapter on the one concept that they listed. Are you serious? That's a whole chapter. Oh my goodness, dude. Um, dude, how many chapters are there on contracts? Chapter 6 was just an overview of contracts, and now there's gonna be a million chapters on all the specifics of contracts. Wait, um, holy crap! How many chapters are there? Wait, what? Unit 2 contracts. Oh, contracts takes up chapters 6 through 18. Oh man. Well, contracts, sales, and leases. And aren't sales and leases two types of contracts? So basically, contracts takes up 6 through 18. Man, well, why am I complaining? I don't know. Ah, well, it's funny. This textbook, I wonder how much reading we're going to have to do this semester. Okay, the, because how many chapters per exam? The exam over Unit 8 is just going to be over 2 chapters, so that's nice. But Unit 2, oh no. Dude, they're doing it based on units. There's so many chapters. Oh my gosh. Unit 2 exam is going to suck. It's going to have so many chapters. Oh, dude. He's doing it based on units? This is insane. What? I'm stupid. Wait. Do you just do 18 minus 6 plus 1 to get the number of chapters? So it's like 13 chapters, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Dude, we're gonna have a test over 13 chapters. What? What? That's crazy. Why? The chapters are slightly shorter than average, but that's still 13 chapters. What the heck? Did they leave? 13 chapters is one of our tests. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to evenly spread it out, dude. Like, look. I closed it already. He has Unit 2 is all of this, and then Unit 3, Unit 4. We don't do Unit 5? That's weird. Dude, Unit 2 exam might be the hardest exam of the whole class. Or is the final going to be the hardest? Oh, how many chapters is our final going to cover? Like 40? It's going to be like 40 chapters covered for our final exam. That was funny.